My favorite M&A back in the crazy 2000s was the time AOL decided to purchase Time Warner. I was doing my PhD at the time, and this was in the news 24/24. The rationale of the M&A seemed good. The biggest online company buying the biggest print and media company. At the time, Time Warner owned Time Magazine, Business Week, streaming content, HBO, and Warner Brothers, and other things. The idea for AOL was to sell this print and screen media online. That was a great idea, but it was 15 years too early for people to come to terms that you should purchase content online. In the early 2000s, the internet was the Wild West, and we wanted everything pirated and everything for free. Time Warner was worth $85 billion at the time. AOL kept on bidding until it acquired it for $181 billion. Now let us put this into perspective. $181 billion in 2000s is more than $1 trillion today. At the time, the GDP of Indonesia, a large oil-producing nation of more than 200 million people, was 180 billion. It was huge. Of course, the stock market was not happy in any of this. Right after the acquisition, people realized that no one will be paying to purchase content online. Simply no one. Everything was free at the time. So the stock market went down from 70 to 10 very quickly. Let us look at the accounting. When we purchase a company, we need to recognize goodwill and recognize the intangible assets. Look at the columns in front of you from right to left. On the far right, it is the financial statements of AOL pre-acquisition. As you see, there are no intangible assets. The middle column, the pro forma column, means as if it was acquired. It shows you 2.5 billion of music assets, 31 billion of cable and sports assets, and 10 billion of brands, and 128 billions of goodwill. Beautiful, simply beautiful. Total intangible assets are now 172 billion, a record. Remember, they paid 181 billion for the acquisition. And now intangible assets are 172. Of these, 128 is goodwill. The interesting thing about goodwill is that it is an asset that represents the future success of an M&A. So if the M&A does not succeed, can you sell the goodwill to somebody else? Will anyone buy the goodwill from you? How can you sell it? They come to your office and you give it to them in a box? When an M&A fails, you simply do an impairment of goodwill, down to zero. This is exactly what happened. 181 billion paid for the acquisition, evaporated in just 2 years. How can you lose 181 billion in 2 years? Beats me. Does not make any sense to anyone, actually. This is $1 trillion lost in today's dollars. Think of President Biden's environment saving plan. That is a total of $2 trillion, and everyone is saying it is huge. Steve Case, the CEO of AOL at the time, burned to an equivalent of $1 trillion in a matter of 2 years. Spending $2 trillion on the environment is neither revolutionary nor bold. Spending $1 trillion on Time Warner, that is something that needs a lot of courage and guts. And a bit of craziness, of course. So look at the total impairment. 45 billion impairment of goodwill, and another 54 billion of a quick amortization of goodwill. They put this down as cumulative effect of accounting change. Just below, the total loss is 98.6 billion. The largest ever loss in corporate history for the past 25 years I have been following markets. A catastrophe.